Founded just over 10 years ago, Pinterest has rapidly become one of the most prevalent and widespread social media sites on the internet. With over 300 million monthly users, Pinterest is beloved by many. However, this popularity comes with a price. Pinterest is maligned by many users of more traditional social medias and further ignored by others. Admittedly, until recently, I fell into the third category. I've never really known what Pinterest was. I've kind of always had this vague awareness of it, but I've never used it, and none of my close friends or family or classmates used it. So the only times I really encountered Pinterest were when I was searching for something on Google Images and clicked on a search result and it linked back to Pinterest. So I've kind of always had this vague awareness that Pinterest was a site that existed, but I've never really known what it was. In fact, before I started this project, I don't even think I would have been informed enough to tell you that it was a social media site. I probably would have considered it an image hosting site or something along those lines. So because I've never used Pinterest before, I needed to create a new account for this project. However, because I wanted them to have as much data as possible about me, I decided to sign up for Pinterest using my Google account, which has a lot of information about me and also means I didn't have to manually fill in my demographic information. After creating my account, I decided to go straight into using a web scraping tool to conduct several searches of key information. I purposely decided to conduct these searches before I spent any time playing around on the site using this new account. This is because I wanted to give Pinterest as little data as possible and see if their search results were still specifically tailored to me based purely on prior information from my Google account. So, I decided to use the scraper to search for the terms purple, Seattle, shoes, homeschool, and family vacation. None of the search results seemed to be particularly surprising or informative, so I decided to move on to creating another account. My idea behind this portion of the project was to create an account that had the exact same interests as me, but very different demographic information. So, I created a temporary email and signed up for a new Pinterest account. I listed my age as 37, my gender as female, my language as Australian English, and my place of residence as Germany. When I got to the point in the process where Pinterest prompted me to choose 5 topics from a list in order to get a better idea of the type of content I wanted to see on the site, I had originally planned to just choose the same topics I had chosen before when creating my personal account so that everything would be equal between the two accounts. Those topics were men's hairstyles, men's style, technology, geek culture, gadgets, minimalism, and puppies. However, when I actually came around to trying to select these topics on this new account, I found that I couldn't. These sort of technology-focused topics that I had chosen previously weren't available to me based on the information I had put in. The only one of my 7 topics that I had selected on my previous account that was available to me was puppies, although I didn't select it because I had forgotten that was one of the topics I had previously selected. But the other topics just weren't there, and the way this topic select screen works is that it actually forces you to pick 5 topics from this list. It does not let you choose less than 5. And it also does not let you search for topics or put in your own topics or anything like that. It gives you a predefined list based on the demographic information it knows about you seemingly, and that's what you're stuck with. So because of this, I had to choose sort of the closest thing to the type of stuff I was interested in. Because I couldn't choose any technology or gaming-focused topics, I ended up having to choose stuff like design and animation and music and streetwear and shoes. So it appears that Pinterest is already making huge assumptions about the user based on the demographic information this early in the account process. Because when I created my personal account and I logged in through Google, and so it got all of my Google account information and knows that I'm a 19-year-old male from North Carolina, it had certain assumptions about the sort of stuff that I would be interested in seeing on Pinterest, such as technology and games and men's fashion and streetwear and all this sort of stuff. But when I said I was a 30-something-year-old female who was originally from Australia and then moved to Germany, it had a whole different set of assumptions, and it assumed that I would not be interested in technology or games or gadgets or anything like that. It assumed I was going to be interested in fitness or home cooking or inspirational quotes or stuff like that. And not only that, there was no option for me to actually bypass all these assumptions and search for what I was truly interested in. It was forcing me into these predefined topics, which means it's impossible for users to fully escape these sorts of assumptions on Pinterest. After creating my account and updating my bio, I spent about a half hour on the site just messing around. I decided to search for the types of things that I would be searching for anyway if I were using the account for my personal use. Stuff like games, especially indie games like Celeste, or Nintendo games like Pokemon, or Mario, or Animal Crossing. I also decided to look up vinyl record setups, computer setups, any sort of cool, colorful lighting, any sort of random technology stuff I found, any sort of fashion stuff I was interested in. So, for example, shoes, especially streetwear type shoes, Vans, Air Jordans, stuff like that. So, after I spent a little while creating boards and saving pins, I decided to move on to the next step, which was to go back to the scraping tool I had used before and conduct the exact same 5 searches as I had conducted previously. And I found that for the most part, the results were pretty much the same. The only one of the 5 search terms that returned significantly different results was shoes, which returned the types of shoes I'd been searching for previously, such as Nikes and Vans, as opposed to the more generic men's formal wear shoes I had gotten before. Thus, while the search results weren't particularly insightful, I do think there are still issues regarding Pinterest and digital identity. While I understand why Pinterest would want to design their systems around what they think users will want based on statistical data, I do think this causes many issues, especially when they force their users into these assumptions. I can understand why the topic selection screen wouldn't default to having men's hairstyles or men's fashion for a female user. However, I do think it is best to give all users the option to choose whatever topics they want. I find the assumption that a 37-year-old female user would have zero interest in technology or gadgets of any sort to be pretty problematic, especially considering that an estimated 2/3 of Pinterest user base is female. Thus, I think it is important to engage in exercises like these and encourage companies like Pinterest to think critically about how their design implementations are affecting the digital experience and digital identities of their users.